Hi, welcome to class 3 of the 201. We're calling it Advanced Resolve 11 class. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Thanks to the guys who are supporting me here with some gear like FSI for the monitor, Tangent, Logic keyboards. It's a really great keyboard. Everything is mapped on it, and obviously when soon the Resolve 11 keyboard will be released, it does make life a little bit easier. Also, I want to thank everyone who's supplied media for the class. And we'll do a thank you shout out for that on the end as well. But thank you all the guys who have helped there. So we edited and we conformed it, and now we have a sequence. We're going to talk about primary grading. But before we talk about this sequence, what I want to do is just to talk about general primaries, and especially the log grading against the curves and where we can use either or, when's it best to use which one. So we're going to make a new bin, and we close that. So we don't want it in that bin, so we make sure that folder's closed, and we add plus here, and we call this primary, and into it, funnily enough, we add the primary folder. Drag that in. Now, obviously some of these clips will be familiar to some of you guys. Some obviously are good and some are not so good. There, some very strange things going on here, but this potentially, or not potentially, they are quite bad. I've made some of them bad, but these are some of the problems we come up with. But like anything in the classes, I exaggerate things so you can understand them a bit more. Then it's not all about subtle little color corrections, because we're not always going to be able to convey that in their class. Again, new feature, I like it. Select all, right click, create a new timeline. It's right there. Primary. Let's spell correctly, shall we? There we go. Now, we know about LUTs. If you shot log C, Alexa, like this, easiest form of a primary grade would be a LUT. Right click on the node, 3D LUT. It's ARRI, Alexa to Rec 709. Done. Could be done. Make your dailies, use it as a grade, use it as the starting point of a grade, whatever you wish. There is a new icon there for you. All right. You can leave that there. I sometimes like to label that. Use labels, very useful, especially when you're learning new stuff. You can still grade through it. One thing you notice though, when you apply a LUT, where does it do its change? Here? Anything change there? No. Here? Anything change there? No. So let's take this back out. No curve change. No change there. It doesn't do it with Resolve tools. It does it on the graphics card. So think of it doing it under the hood of Resolve, because a LUT is generic. If ARRI give out a LUT, they're giving it to 10, 20 different manufacturers of software. So that LUT will work in all of them. So it couldn't use Resolve controls, because a Resolve control is not a baselite control. It's not a Final Cut or an Avid control. So it does it on the graphics card, so it's generic and it's the same. We then take that and we grade on top of it. Okay, so that one is utilizing a LUT. This is new. This is BMD film 4K file, and there is a new tab here called the color checker. Now this is meant for maybe on-set colorists or people on set who want to be able to get a really good starting point. So we can see she is quite green in the face there. Everything's a bit washed out. How is it meant to be? We were not there. We do not know. So what I want to do is to select this new tab here. So what you do is to close this down, and then in here in the eyedropper we select color chart. Helps if you do make yourself a slightly bigger window here, and zoom up using your middle mouse. If you're not using a 3-button mouse, you need to be, because you're not going to be half as much fun. Drag the corners to the corners of the chart. Now I'm suggesting I need to do some sort of auto snapping here. Somehow it must be able to detect that chart and do this a bit quicker. Having done that, you see my squares, boxes, now fill the boxes of the chart. Now I know that this was BMD film 4K. Rec 709 is my monitor, and I'm going to say match. And it will match that grade, and this becomes a fantastic starting point for anything I might want to do. So I'm going to change my label there, and I'll call that matched. And that has a slightly different icon to the LUT icon that we had here. See, that's the LUT icon. This is the matched icon. Do it again. This one was just BMD film. But if I didn't know it was BMD film, maybe I didn't know, I'm looking at this, no indication, what is it? I want to use the chart. I know they've used the chart I've liked. They use the X-Rite color checker. Let's see what happens if we don't know. Drag this guy on. There. Boxes are filling the boxes. Let's stick this to source gamma being auto and see what it comes up with. There. Not bad. It's pretty good. Look at it on my waveform. I've looked at a lot of images, looked at a lot of good starting points. This is a time saver. Right. And you've got the option here of 3 of these different charts that you can use. You just need to know which one was shot. And it does, and again, an automatic little change to all these camera values, and it's telling you there how much it's changed it by. Pretty cool. It's a good feature. A lot of people are going to be excited about that, I think. To move that, you can just drop down here and get rid of that like that. Now, typically, we would fix this either by lift gamma gain, and in lift gamma gain, if you want to take out blue, you are adding the opposite of blue, which is yellow. You are always adding a colour to move something. That's how I know RGB, how it works. You add a colour to negate a colour you don't want. So to make this look easier and how we look at these controls, we are going to add a generator. I don't have to add it in here. I'll add it here. Scroll down and open up your effects library. And in your generator, you have a grayscale. We can now, don't have to add it to my favorite. It's not really a favorite yet. What I'm going to do is to drag it, pop it up on top there. Now, it is just a filter at this stage. I need to turn it into a compound clip. So right click on him, new compound clip. We'll call it ramp. Like that. I'm actually going to put him on the end. Like this. Let's fold that down. Stick him down there. So he's right at the end. So there's my ramp. So anything we can do, we can compare to the ramp as well. So if we're using our offset control, which I quite do and I like, an offset, I like to look at the offset, not necessarily in this way, but look at it here in a very simple form, almost like printer-like form. Now, I often use this analogy. When you're looking at features, and you're looking at any feature pre-2000, most, 2002, 3, they were graded in a laboratory. And that's a guy or a girl using what were called printer lights, which were points of red, green, or blue. So just like this, clicking points of red, green, and blue. As that goes up, you take a point of green down, you add a point of blue like that, and you'd go through and you'd look at this and you'd say, well, we need to take our red, And we need to take our green down, but our green needs to come up. And then you'd look at the shot and you'd go through and you'd work out what you need to do to fix it up. So I need to get the blue out of it, like this. Here we go. There's a little bit too much green. Take the green, take a little bit of red up, and slowly we can balance the image. Now this is a very clean way of doing it, and I want to show you though how that works here. As I move the red, green and blue, you can see it only moves that one channel. Go into the green, that only moves that channel. If I use my gain though, and I take the green up in the gain, the red and the blue are moving as well. So you move one, it always has an opposite effect on the other RGB channels, but that doesn't here. So that means I'm always working, if you like, with what I'm given. So that can be a clean way of working. What I cannot do, I cannot add to my contrast, so I can still do that in here. I can still take my blacks down a little bit, add my whites up like that, add some saturation to that image. But I've done a very clean balance in here. Alternatively, let's add a version, color, add a version, and this will become, instead of doing that in here, I'm just going to reset this guy and this guy. I'm going to come here and I'm going to take my contrast up there. And I can adjust my pivot point like that. Pivot set at 50 means if you imagine a line, a control point going right the way through the middle of this scope here. So if I drag that across here, as I change my contrast, as it goes up and down, it is stretching the contrast from the center line. So normally sets. But if I move that pivot point and I move it up, reset my contrast, so now I have a pivot point of 75, it's going to stretch it through there. There you go. Which is going to give me a different look. The contrast is spreading out from this area. Like if I was to change that pivot point to 25 up there and adjust my contrast, different again. It's going to stretch from that point. Different. Again, no particular rules, right, roll or wrong, whether you like using these contrast controls or you like, you know, raising your blacks, lifting the whites and stretching the signal that way. That's it's up to you really how you work. Some people love getting into the offsets, others don't. Whether you are a curve guy or not really maybe depends on your background and where you've come from. If you really like to get in and fix things with curves, it could be that you have quite a strong Photoshop background, or a lot of avid people like curves. These are automatically gang together. So you can put as many points as you want in here. Reset one, you reset all. But if you want to get in and really play with individual channels, so you might go, well, it definitely looks magenta. We need to bring some red back out of this, and we'll bring some blue out. And maybe we'll add a little bit of green in, like so, like that. And then we're going to come in and we're going to add a little curve here, just to negate that log look to it. We're going to do a slightly less there, like that. And we still got a little bit of red we need to just pull out of there. So I'll just do that. Now that's not looking so bad. Let's do it on curves. Personally, I'm not a big fan of curves, but you see, got a thing. I grew up in colour correction 20 years ago with a great big panel. They had great joy balls in the middle of them. Huge, much bigger than this. So I'm very comfortable with grading in here. Other people like to look lots of control points. Simply though, I find it harder to match shots using this. Purely it's up to you. It's subjective what you like. It's up to you to use what you can use to get the job done. Very important that it matches, so whatever you do, it must match. let's look at log grading. What does log grading do for us? So if we've used our LUT and we've graded the church in like that, and the director says, I love it, I just want to put a little bit yellow in your highlights. Yeah. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just turn this into a waveform. Oh no, we'll leave it there, parade, till we put our ramp. Make a new node, because I've already just did my LUT, so Option S. Color wheels, log, like that. And then in my highlight control, just move that very slightly there. And I'm just going to do it a little bit more, maybe to exaggerate, so you can see it. Turn that off. And you can see it is just putting the color into the arch here. That is because it is only working on a range of plus 667. So if you're looking at our scope here, we're looking at our data range from 0 to 1023. Everything over 667 here is getting that yellow. Everything below it is not. If I adjust that high range point and bring it down, more of the mids will start to get that warmth there. See now across the floor of the church? There. If I go to my shadows and I want to influence some bluey cyan, I can do that. And then I've got control again there on my low ranges. How low do I want that? I don't want that to come into more of the midtones. It's a little bit hard to understand. So people who have got hold of the log grading and are trying to drive it like lift gamma gain have probably thought, oh, it doesn't feel very nice. It feels completely wrong. It's broken. I'll leave it alone. And you'd probably be right in thinking that if you didn't fully understand how it works. One thing I always like to do when I'm trying to learn, I flick this guy into waveform. We're in node 2. And I'm going to go to here, to the ramp. I'm going to be in log grading. And I'm going to move this, like I just did, yellow in the highlights. Just see on your monitor the highlight is getting the warmth. And this area here above 667, exactly where it says, gets that color. Yeah. And if I then move my shadows the same, where it starts to split is where you are applying the color corrector, and you can see it there. Go to your mids, and it's going to try and play the mids. So it's very, very selective on how it works, which is really good when we just want to touch. I say like we want to tread lightly, and we just want to paint in a certain area. It's why a lot of film, or we call them lab timers, movie people really like this way of grading. Now, some people say, well, it has to be log encoded footage for it to work correctly. Yes, you can work with that. There are log tools to design to work with log images. There's nothing to stop you combining lift gamma gain with log just to tint highlights. Not a problem at all. Let's reset. So remember our little resets and go to primary. Let's try and add some warmth in the highlights here. Look how much that is interacting through the whole of that waveform. Nearly all the way to 0 is getting some form of warm colour. Now, it doesn't feel like that when we're grading it, does it? It doesn't feel like there's that much interaction, but obviously there is. This is telling us that. And there we are getting quite a lot of crossover. Grades crossing in, mixing, may not be as nice, might not be as clean. So we've got to be aware of that. So use this ramp. Bring this ramp in, and any time you are not sure, look at it and look at your waveform and get to see where you are applying your colour. Reset this anytime you've got the ramp and just look and go, yeah, that is applying in that area. go back to the church. Now, having done this, you can see that I really like this grade, but in doing so, on the here, we've actually just clipped that out slightly. Now, I don't like that. Now, that looks a little bit digital. And what can we do about that? We can add another node. Resolve works in 32 floating points. So that means if I do clip something here in node 2, I can bring that information back in node 3. I only want to bring back that real highlight though. So I'm going to try and do that in expand up my curves. And I want to work in, just close it down again because I need to just select what I want to do first here. Soft clip. Ungang, so make sure I am ganged, it's fine, it's gone back to gang clips, and go to high soft. And what I'm going to do is roll that all the way to the left. And you can see, it's quite hard to see, it's just going to pull, let's gang them all together. Gang. Go high soft, click and roll there. That's with it off, so you can see it's burning out in the arch. And as I move that to the left, I'm starting to do a soft clip and I'm bringing back the highlight detail into here. You can see that here now. I've zoomed that in. Let's reset this control. There. Start to roll that off, and you can also look at the waveform, how the waveform just comes down and this bit of information comes back. The rest of the picture stays the same. Very nice. Because it's that type clipping and those harsh highlights and the way that it rolls off is not similar to film. And a lot of the times we're trying to emulate that. A lot of these cameras are designed with like a Cineon, a log curve in mind with film roll off. That's what they're trying to emulate. This is one control that certainly helps us get there. This shot, definitely wrong. Lots of blue. Now, I've shown this before. You may have seen this before, but it's a good trick. If you haven't, it will be worth it. There's lots of green hitting you in the face. What can you do to disperse of that? You can create a shape, a square, just place it over the top, like that. So it's only really looking at the white and the black. Keep a little bit of the black on the clapperboard. Expand that up if you need. Yeah. Then you go to your highlight key, and you can then see how green that is. You could use your offset control, and what we can do is dial away the green, take the green down, bit of red up. And the advantage is, when we look at our scopes, and we look at our scopes in Parade, we just see the clapperboard in RGB. So I can then jump back to not in log mode, I'll just do that in gamma, and I'll just ease that and add a bit more contrast to it, just looking at the selection of the clapperboard, like that. Then what I can do is, that certainly looks cleaner on the clapperboard, take off the highlight, looks better already, take off the window, there. Much cleaner balance because you're only grading black and white, you're not having all that colour hit you in the face. This is all very well, but how does it work back with our Kelly sequence? Let's go back to that Kelly sequence here. I've just got the 15 cut down that we made. Let's move my waveforms back over here and have a little look at a few things here. I'm a firm believer you must look at things over a few times. If you can get a work in progress or an H.264 sent to you before you start, it will help you. It will help you understand where the problems might be. we can see we have a colour temperature difference between these shots. It's worth noting that, looking at it, but most of her shots would match, and his are definitely a bit warmer. He has a highlight there on the side of his head that's clipping out. Are we going to be able to fix that? I've seen some colourists jump far too quickly into a secondary. They want to start keying and start tracking and changing backgrounds. Very difficult. It takes time. If you can fix anything as a primary, then do it and try a few different ways, even if you've got clients. Well, let's try with the offset. Yeah? Go to our offset control, and let's say we've definitely got a bit too much green in there. Let's just click a couple of times, and we'll add a little bit of white, and we're just trying to do as clean a primary balance as we can before we may have to use secondaries or windows. And that's just improved that already. Now I may have to see if there's any detail in her top. I don't think there's going to be, so we may be a bit crushed there. It is. We lift up, and what we can see is this line is solid. That means there is no information there. Then there might be in the raws if we ever get hold of the raw files, but in this ProRes that we're working with, it's gone. So it probably means that when it was transcoded, that got crushed slightly in a grade or with a LUT, or it could even be in the camera. Might be like that in the raw. So I may as well sit that back down, like that. And I can also get hold of my lift like that. Just balance that to there. Go back to here. Play around a little bit more with taking a tad more green out. That's obviously going to affect this overall. But then once I've changed that, I can then balance back down with the blacks, play with the mid-tones, come into my mids. And with your mid-tones, a lot of people I find don't use these or the gammas enough. It tends to be where your skin tone falls. So I'm trying to look at the overall picture, and the background walls are a good indication. Just get hold of this control, or get hold of this more and just move this around. There. Turn it off. Good. Come here, turn on the gallery, get rid of that guy. And we can grab still, right click, grab still, and put a name on it. Call that. That's obviously a offset. And lift cam again. Do that, then do it again. Try and match exactly the same shot without using the offset. Then try it with the log grading. Try it and have a look and try and compare and see what you like. If nothing else, it will make you faster as a colorist to understand what works for you and what you like. You may get there with the curves and make it really quick. Once we've done that, there is no harm in selecting this shot and middle clicking. Just for a look. The only real danger with this is if you've done keys, maybe you've done shapes, on the wide shot are not going to work on the close-up. They won't work. You can put them there and modify them, but be careful. Yeah, because if you miss something, you're going to have a noisy key in there, which is going to cause you problems. All right. Now, is there detail in there? Are we going to find any more? So let's pull our scopes up. Right-click, show scopes. Again, we think not. Probably crushed the same. It's probably crushed in the whites. There may be a very tiny little bit we get back, but it's not much. And if you keep pulling that down, you're not going to get any more. Can you use a soft clip there? Let's have a look. Let's make a new node. There, soft clip. No. It flattens it. It turns it to a white. The soft clip is only really influencing what we as colorists have pushed into a clipper. Maybe in grading somebody's eyes, we have pushed everything up too much, so her skin would go, or something like in this instance, if I'm winding up contrast, I get that slight nasty little, what would I call that on her head there? See if you can zoom that in so you can see that. So this goes a little bit digital. It's right on the edge of the clipper. And that's a little bit, just not so nice. It just looks a little bit too digital there for me. So I can come in here and I can go to my soft clip. And I can just roll that off very slightly. Not much, I've gone about 57. Look what it's doing here. Again, very nice. Just practice with that. Practice with the log. Bring in the ramp. Make the ramp, but use the still store and compare. Set yourself challenge. Go, which one do I like? Which one is going to be good? Which one is going to be fast? Which one gives me the more neutral look? Primary grade is the most important thing you will learn. One of the hardest things, being able to match a sequence quickly, being able to recognise what's wrong and balance it is hard to do. It takes a long time. But I've said it before, and I'm going to be boring saying it again. Plugins, effects, power grades, all those things are not going to help you if you cannot balance your picture. And the more you understand about the controls, the better and faster you will be. Thanks for watching.